This is the plaintiff, Kim Provitt. She says the defendant, her son's father, refused to return their son to her after summer vacation, and she drove 13 hours to her son's school to get him. The school and the cops, however, refused to release him to her custody, and she had to drive all the way back home empty-handed. The defendants unlawfully kept her from her son, and she's suing for the $3,000 she wasted running back and forth from Alabama to Michigan while he played games with her life. This is the defendant, David Johnson. He says his son did not want to return to his mother, so he hired a lawyer to obtain legal custody of him. Then the plaintiff shows up at school one day and starts acting crazy, so the cops were called. He doesn't owe the delusional plaintiff a thing because she's causing everyone involved emotional stress, and he's done nothing wrong. He's accused of snatching his kid.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff says the defendant and her baby dadder essentially kidnapped their 12-year-old son by not returning him to her after a summer vacation. But the defendant said the kid didn't want to go back to her, so it's the case of son of a gun.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Kim Provitt, you are suing the father of your child, David Johnson, for $3,000 that you say you are entitled to and expenses and emotional distress that you were forced to incur when he kept your child after his summer visit, and you had to fight to get your child back to your state. Tell me what's going on.
I met the defendant in 1989. We had an off-on-again relationship until 2005, long distance from Michigan to Alabama. We had a son in 1999. He's been in his life off and on, coming to visit, whatever, and I let him go visit his father in the summertime. I've never had a problem.
Have you folks ever been to court anywhere in any state before all of this happened?
Child support court.
All right. Was at child support court, was any order ever entered about visitation?
No custody.
So you folks, so there's no court, there's no original court order saying you have primary custody and you have visitations in the summer.
There is now.
No, there is now. I'm asking before the event.
No.
There was nothing in place. All right, go on.
And this prior summer, I let my son go for a month from July 15th. He was supposed to return him to me on August 17th.
And your son is how old?
12.
At the time he was 12, or he's 12 now?
He's 12 now.
Okay.
He called me August 15th.
Who called you?
The father.
And the son was supposed to be back starting school in Alabama. What date?
August 22nd.
Okay. Calls you on the 15th.
And he told me he was not going to bring him back.
And then what happened?
I thought he was joking. And after August 17th passed, I see that he wasn't going to bring him. So I went to my family court and filed for an ex parte order. And I received that on September 12th. I called him and told him about it.
So wait. From August 17th to September 12th, what happens? Are you calling him?
I went and, yeah.
Did you call the police?
No, I called him and I called my family court.
And were you talking to your son during that time?
When he decided to answer the phone and let me speak with him.
Which was when?
August 20th, something like that.
Okay, when you talk to your son, what does your son say about what he wants? Not that controls, I'm just asking, what did your son say?
My daddy want me to stay with him, so I'm going to stay up here with him, Mama.
All right. When your son tells you that, what do?
I was like, you got to come home. I know he might want you to stay, but you're supposed to go for the 1 month. You know that. My daddy want me to stay, so I want to stay. That's what he said.
So what do?
I go to family court and file for an ex parte order. I received that on September 12th.
That means that you're the only party. You don't have to have him notice. It's an emergency, and you're saying, Judge, give me an order to get my son. My son's been taken from me.
Exactly.
All right, so you drive to Michigan.
Yes.
All right, and when you drive to Michigan, what happens?
I go to the school. I find out what school
How did you find out what school he was attending?
He told me.
When he talked to you on the 22nd or some other time?
Some other time.
All right.
Once his father registered.
Did you ever
you
didn't tell your son, I'm going to go pick you up, right?
No.
That was commando.
No, I didn't.
All right, so you go to the school and you show them the order.
Yes, and the principal told me he had to call the father.
So they call him in.
He come in and tell them something about some custody that he's filed for. I didn't even see my child.
So you drove back?
I called him after we left. I said, just let me see him. At first he said yes. He called me back about 30 seconds later and said no.
What happened that summer?
I'm trying to do everything in my power, which is the love of my son, to do for my son. What my son is asking me to do. I obtained a lawyer. My lawyer advised me.
Wait, so the child goes over for a visit. It's clearly supposed to be for a visit. And then your child says, I want to stay with you, Dad?
This is what my son wanted.
He's 11, though.
He's 12.
He's 12.
This is what he cried and begged for me to do. And
what reason did your son give you for not wanting to go back?
He said he never sees his mother. She spends no time with her. He never sees her. You know, he just sits in the house playing video games.
Okay. And so according to you, your son says, I never see my mom. Go on.
He said, I never see my mother. I never get to do anything. You know, I love you, Daddy. I like the things that we do, fishing, you know, just walking, playing ball, or whatever the case may be. He said, this is the life.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How old are they?
My
older
daughter,
or younger?
Older.
Or both? Okay.
Both are older.
Okay. And do they live with you?
No, they graduated. They're in college.
Older.
They
okay.
20. They got their
Who
own
do you
life.
live with? Who was in the house with you that summer?
My wife,
Okay.
her 11-year-old son, and her 19-year-old son.
Okay. Did he get along well with the 11-year-old son?
Yes, Your Honor. They're like brothers.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun at your house.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, but you know a 12-year-old doesn't make those kinds of decisions.
This is why I called an attorney. And
Okay, so you hire an attorney up in Michigan.
Yes.
And the attorney tells you what?
He advised me, take my son to the police station and explain to them the situation and then register him in school. And that's what I did.
So she comes up to school. School looks at the order from Alabama. There's an ex parte order that says the child needs to be returned to the mother. And you and school decide to ignore Alabama's order.
Plaintiff says their 12-year-old son visited his dad for a month, didn't come home. She's saying it's daddy's doing. The defendant says the boy didn't want to go back to mom. Let's listen.
Your Honor, again, I have no authority over a police officer or a sergeant.
No, I know that the police, the principal, and you, all three of you, and you buoyed by the confidence that the police and the principal give you, tell you don't have to return it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. You have no powers here. You know, on an order from Alabama court saying return the child. So everybody decides they don't have to respect the Alabama court. Right? I'm right.
I have the police report. The police also called his sergeant to make sure that he was doing the right thing, and he would have...
No, I know that. I know that the police said you don't have to give him back. I see the police reports where they've said that. So now, what ends up happening? You end up getting your son. How do you get your son?
I filed for full... Well, we had a court date after the ex parte order was granted. They assigned me a December 13th.
December. So now it's December, and in December, you don't go to the hearing. Why don't you go to the hearing?
I wasn't able to make the hearing because I'm already prepared to go down to the hearing. And then as I'm got to get an attorney there because my attorney there can represent me from state to state.
Oh, you can go without an attorney, but go on.
Yes, that was my plans, to go without an attorney.
Okay, I'm still not hearing the answer. Why didn't you go in December?
I did not have the money. I could not financially go. I was steady paying the child support and taking care of my son and paying for his school. He said he had no clothes, no shoes, no socks.
You know how important this was? All you had to put your hand down. Do you know how important this is? All you have to do is take a car and drive down. What is so hard? Live in the car.
Yes, I agree.
For the night. I don't get it. Why is it so hard for you to show up there?
I agree.
But why didn't you do this? Something. Come on. You're stepmom, right? You're good. How are you doing? Hi.
Your Honor, I understand it and I agree with you.
Because what ends up happening is you get full custody.
Yes.
And then you drive back up to Michigan. And during Christmas break, you bring your son back.
No, the police got my son. That's why I picked my son up from the police department in his town. And he told me I should have him arrested for parental kidnapping.
Why is it parental kidnapping?
I don't know. That's what Chief Henry told me.
It's not. Let me explain to you something. I thought there was originally a court order that gave you originally custody. Just because you are the woman, it doesn't mean you own your son like a piece of property. He is the father. There's no denying he's a father. He has every right to that child that you do. So there's no, guess what? He did nothing wrong other than, stop talking. He did nothing wrong on the day he said, I want to keep this child. He wants to stay here. I want my child. He wants me. He wants this life. I don't think you're a good one. Whatever reasoning he had that may be false, you may be a fabulous mother, whatever it is, okay? There is nothing that he did illegal on that day because there was no original court order giving you custody, which is why this kind of thing ought to be hashed out on the days that you all are talking about child support. There should be a plan. There should be a plan in place, but there was no plan in place. So he had a perfect right to do everything he did. I don't advise it. I don't think it was good for him. I think what you do as a father when you love your child is you take your child back to Alabama and then you tell your child, I'm going to fight for you. Is there any other conflict that you had with him?
I know he's the father, but with me sending my child with the intentions of him coming home, all this just put another spin on it when he called me and told me he wasn't bringing them home.
I have a police report. Who handed me this police report? You did?
Yes, Your
That
Honor.
says officers were dispatched to the above location to speak with a juvenile who possibly wanted to hurt himself. Upon arrival, officers spoke with David Johnson, who is the father of his son, David Rakeem Johnson, and stated that his son made comments that he might hurt himself and wished officers to speak with his son. David stated he is angry about custody issues between he and his child's mother, who is out of state. Officers asked the juvenile if he made comments he was going to hurt himself, and he said yes. They asked him if he was serious, and he said no, he was just angry. What happened that made you call the police? What did he say?
What happened was my son's mother called me. She said, listen, little David just called me and said something to the effect that he's about to kill himself if I come and get him. So me being a concerned father, I took it serious.
That happened?
Yes.
Okay, so you called the police.
She called me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I called the police because I figured an outside influence, can talk to
Right.
him, even though I was talking to him
Right.
and explain to him, this is not the right way to go. So I had to call the police because it's
Right.
better than
So
an
the police
uncle
come,
or something like
things
that.
calm down. Have you seen him since this happened in December?
No, I haven't seen him. I only talked to him twice. When I called,
But why have you only talked to him twice?
Because when I call, she won't answer the phone. I left a message on her phone, said, let me just buy him a phone so I can talk to him on his own phone. But
What's
she
wrong
won't-
with him buying him a
She
phone?
won't let me talk
Didn't
to him.
do any
Okay,
of
so if he
that.
buys him a phone now, your
He
son
has
will-
a phone. He called.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
listen. Does your son have a cell phone, yes or
Yes,
no?
yes.
Okay, what's your son's cell phone number? Tell his father. Let me see your phone. Show me your cell phone. No, my bailiff will get it.
You want to
Yeah.
pull up the number first, Sharon?
Yeah, pull up the number.
Did you pull the number up? His number.
Are you afraid for him to have the cell phone number?
No, he called his father.
No, I mean,
gave him a
I'm
number.
not, I'm asking that question because I don't know if in the back of your head, you're worried that they might concoct something to take him again. You understand that you have now a court order in place.
I don't have a problem with him talking to his father.
That's
The number right there.
Right now, the
I
court
am-
order in Alabama says you have full custody and he can have supervised visitation.
Yeah.
334?
Write it down. Huh?
You have part of your claim against him are the expenses that you went through to go get the child. We'll talk about that in a second. But 2/3 of your lawsuit is emotional distress. According to you, you have experienced hair loss as a result of the worry and the stress.
Yes.
And why do you not believe him when he says your child said, I never get to spend time with mom?
No, I don't believe that, and he knows that's a lie. He
Okay.
knows that.
Okay, I mean, you don't strike me as the kind of mother. If you were the kind of mother who didn't care about about her child, you wouldn't have gone through what you went through to try to get him back.
Exactly.
But sometimes there's the fun parent and the parent who's actually been there for 12 years.
Exactly.
Okay, and the parent who's actually been there for 12 years, day in, day out, is not the glamorous parent.
Okay, so the kid doesn't want to go back to the mom. How much say should a 12-year-old have in a decision like this?
Well, I think they should have, all the say they want because they could be in a particular situation that they don't want to be in. And I think, they can get some.
Yeah, but you got a situation where the dad's the good dad and the fun dad and the mom's responsible. Are you really going to give the kid that kind of power?
Yeah, I think the kid should be able to stay with the dad if he wants to.
Anybody disagree?
I think that it's dependent upon the situation. I think you have to hear all sides.
Yeah, but I want to know, do you give the kid a voice at all?
I think they should have some say, but unfortunately he's a minor and they have to let the parents duke it out.
Fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
You have all the cards. What are you going to do?
I want him to have a relationship with his father.
hope
I
so.
always have.
I hope so, because if
I
there's
always
nothing
have.
else, you may say that, I don't trust him anymore and I don't blame you. But one thing I know, right, is that that boy loves his father,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And that somehow, somewhere, he needs that man in his life.
Yes.
So the question is, how's this going to happen? This is not a question that I can answer here on People's Court. It's a question you people have to start thinking about. Because one thing is, it's going to cost you gasoline to Alabama. So if you can't figure out how to do that in December, you better start figuring out how you're going to do it later. Because it's going to cost you gasoline and a drive to Alabama from now on. That's how it's going to be. You have a phone number now. Start using it. Start calling him. But know that if you don't get access to your child, you're going to have a fight. And the fight doesn't have to be with a lawyer. Drive down to Alabama. File the piece of paper saying, I'd like to have more custody. Explain to a judge in handwriting how it is that everything's happened, how much you miss your son, so that your son knows that you didn't just give up and say, I had too much trouble, right? You don't want your son to think that. And in a little way, in a tiny little way, not driving down there for that hearing might make him think that. I mean, the one thing we do all agree on is that we want David to feel loved, right?
Sure.
Exactly.
And the more people if David is half you and half you, isn't he? Right? Mm-hmm. And if he feels that one of those halves is fighting with the other one of those halves, what kind of inner turmoil do you think you're putting your child through? I mean, what do you think this is like for him? I don't care whether you two have grown to hate each other. I hope not. But no matter how you feel about each other, the one overriding, overpowering desire that has to guide your actions from here on in is your love for David. And your desire to have all the stuff that's happened affect him the least possible way, negatively. That it be a positive thing for him, that he understand. What I would like, if I could write the script, let me tell you what the script would look like. You would get your hiney to Alabama. You would agree to have a meeting with all of you, okay? Sit down and tell him how much you love him and how much you want to work something out that he can live with, where you feel safe, where he feels like he's getting access, and where your child feels loved. Can you imagine how far that would go to healing your son? Can you imagine how wonderful that would be for him? Right?
Right.
Please try to figure something out that would allow that to happen. And if you can't figure it out amongst yourselves, then get the court involved. Okay? They have professionals that'll help you with this. Now, let's talk about the lawsuit in front of me. You want someone to pay you for your travel expenses and the emotional distress that you went through because you feel it was unfair to go back on the promise of bringing him back. And I need to tell you, first of all, you don't have $1,000 in expenses. I mean, I'm not sure where you got your figures from, but when I look at this, when I first walked out, I thought that there was going to be a court order in place that gave you custody and that gave him summer visitation, but there was none. Yeah. So if there was none, then I ask you, why am I supposed to look at your right to your child as greater than his right to his child? In other words, what did he do wrong? What did he violate by saying, I want my son? He's my son too. What did he violate? I think it's wrong psychologically, but what is it legally that he violated? He has the cops telling him he's right. He's got a lawyer telling him he's right. He's got the principal telling him he's right. What did he do wrong that had caused him to pay you $3,000? He has every right to that boy as much as you do. So until there was an order in place, there's nothing that he did wrong. And when there was an order in place, he handed the child over. Not with the temporary order, because they're all telling him you don't need to do that with the temporary order. But then when there was a full order in place and he lost custody, then that's it. He handed him over. On your lawsuit against him, 0. Good luck,
Say
folks.
one thing.
The plaintiff doesn't win her lawsuit, but the judge poured her heart out from the bench for you. What effect did that have on you?
It really affected me with all the stories that were told in there. I know I did what I was supposed to do, so I'm fine with it.
Well, are you willing to somehow mitigate the fight between you and the boy's dad and for the child's benefit?
I don't have a fight with him, period.
Anything you want to say before you go?
Bye.
Watch your step.
All right, so come on in here. Again, the judge poured her heart out for you, for your benefit also. So how did that affect you?
I miss him dearly. You know, I love him a lot. He loved me. I ain't talked to him. She won't let me talk to him. Luckily, the judge gave me the number. She won't answer the phone. I ain't seen him. But I'll be down at the center for his birthday.
All right, Harvey?
You know, we see this so much where you have two people who have a kid and they split up, and especially when they're not married, and they figure we're kind of getting along, so we're not going to bother going to court and getting any kind of a custody arrangement. Bad idea. Nail it down to the beginning, because when it gets really tough, it gets really difficult.